Good evening, everyone. We'll get the AGM of Butterfly Conservation South Australia running. And thank you very much for your attendance. And just like to acknowledge that we meet on the lands of the Kaurna people, acknowledge the elders past, present and emerging, and that they did not see this land. I've distributed agenda and papers. At the moment, we only have Rona on line, but maybe there'll be some other people who will join us online. But I will put the papers or scroll the papers up and share them so that you've got them up on the screen for those who haven't got a copy. Everyone has signed the attendance sheet. And thank you very much for doing that. If you could, Sarah, if you could just add Rona Sacco onto the attendance sheet. Thank you very much. So our agenda is as per shown up here, as per a normal agenda is required under our constitution. And thank you very much for filling out the attendance register as you've arrived. Just like to go to the minutes of the previous AGM, which was held on the 5th of September. I'll just scroll down to there. Those present on the night can acknowledge the minutes shortly. We'll just briefly go through. I was in the chair for that meeting, provided a report, and we had Karen Rodder as acting treasurer delivered her treasurer's report. We set the membership fees, first time we'd made a change since 1998, and those membership fees have been in place for a year now. We received nominations for honorary life membership, so we've increased our honorary life membership to 11 persons now. Acknowledge their great service over the years. As you can see from the election, there was no nomination for chair or for treasurer at the time. I took on the role as acting chairman, and we managed to find a treasurer, Esteban Garcia. And so that was our meeting. I'd like to invite someone who was there on that meeting to move that those minutes be accepted. Thank you, Jan. Do I have a second? Okay, Pauline. Julia. I'm sorry, Julia. Okay. Okay, thank you very much, Julia. Yes, well, I'll register apologies in a moment. I'm sorry, I forgot about that. So, with the addition of correction of Julia Browning's surname, yep. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Gil. All those in favour? Thank you. All right, I'll just go back to apologies. So we have apologies from Mike Moore and Bernadette Johnson and Sue Forrest. Peter McQuillan. Okay. So at the moment, I only have Rona online. Brian Hayward, any other apologies? Okay, thank you. If you think of someone else, just please make their names known to Alex. Okay, we'll just move on to my report, which is very similar to last year's, and I'll just highlight the differences. We thank Alex for his role as secretary. and for Esteban as he's taking over the role of treasurer from Karen. Much appreciated for their diligent work in managing the governance of our organisation along with the rest of the committee. Certainly like to extend significant thanks to Gil Hollenby, who continues to serve us with his bountiful energy. Thank you, Bruce. Our very hard-working life member and newsletter editor, Jan Forrest, who also continues to really do wonderful things, and particularly working on the Caterpillar app catalogue, which is nearing completion. Oh, there we are. Terrific. Okay. And another very special thank you to Sarah McDonald. Sarah has been doing the social media, in particular Facebook, and the volunteer roster for several years now, as well as extending our publications out into retail and wholesale outlets. So thank you very much, Sarah. Really appreciate your significant amount of energy there. Our online store manager, Pushpa, has done a wonderful job with managing the website online sales. And Bernadette Johnson, as I mentioned earlier, sends her apologies. She's, like many people in our society at the moment, is suffering from this significant bout of respiratory illnesses that are around. She's been able to provide significant governance support as well as hospitality here. Lionel has kept our websites going and managing the technical support. Thank you very much, Lionel, for your great work, and particularly in working with our service provider, Click Advertising. Their principal, Gareth James Taylor's moved on, but is it Jason on? People doing things now. Yeah. James left, and now it's Connor and Joel. Connor and Joel, who we're working. Yeah, yeah. So we're just actually investigating significant investigative tools to actually work out what is of interest to the wider population on our websites, and so we're just up the ante on investigating the analytics on those websites. So thank you very much, Lionel. Our other management committee members, Dr. Peter McQuillan, Mike Moore, Brian Hayward, and Anne Winter. Thank you for coming tonight, Anne, and for your good work. And our public officer, John Wilson, who also sends his apologies. So if you just pop his name there. Unfortunately, John's wife, Margaret, has suffered a fall this week and has broken her leg. So they're out of action. I'd also like to thank Sophie Thompson, who continues to support our association as our patron, and the particular work that Peter McQuillan does in responding to all our significant number of inquiries about butterflies and moths. And I'd like to acknowledge our life member, Roger Grund, who how's he going in retirement village there? Yeah, is with his dementia. So sincerely thank those members for standing down this year and encourage other members to participate in the governance of our association. Just like to focus on the deductible gift recipient and charity status we have. Our Butterfly Conservation Fund Committee, which is chaired by John Wilson and the other members, Jan and Mike, now has funds of $7,484.78 at the end of the financial year. And the committee's been preparing a grant process to actually provide an opportunity for those people who may see an opportunity to seek funds from Butterfly Conservation for conservation projects. So hopefully in the next few months, we'll actually get those messages out. Just like to move on to finances. So the financial year has been very rewarding, and Esteban, I think was also an apology to. Thank you. So we suffered a significant loss of not having Sophie's Patch as a venue for promotion. I'm sure many other organisations who patronised Sophie's Patch in both autumn and spring will have also been suffering from that, but it certainly provided us with a great opportunity for our education and sales. But our sales of our two books in particular have continued to be strong, with Attracting Butterflies selling 189 copies this year, down about 90 copies from previous year. And over the 8 years, we've distributed 2,646 of this edition. The first edition was 3,000 copies. So we've got over 5,500 copies of this significant work out in the community. And it's still very well received. The Moth book has also done quite well and been well received across Australia. In this financial year, we sold 168 compared with 174 last year. And we've distributed 1,609 copies across that period since it was published in 2019. We rely heavily on our online shop for the sales, and last calendar year we sold $6,230 worth of sales on the site. So you can see how important our websites are and how important our online store is. The membership book combos are very popular, and so we keep trying to find ways to actually make sure that the community enjoys our resources. We had a slight change of focus with the public talks program, with Jan being a little bit busier this year. We changed the format a little bit, but nevertheless, some significant speakers were attracted, none less than Mark Hutchinson tonight. Thank you for coming, Mark. And we hope that we will continue on the program, but we certainly need someone to actually look after that. The final talk will run in the sort of similar dinner ticketed event again, and this time Professor Chris Daniels will be talking about the platypus recovery program. As I mentioned earlier, Gil's done a lot of work on membership and understanding our membership and responding to the changes that happen each year. And so I'd just like to talk a little bit about the trends in membership. We've had a significant focus on removing unfinancial members from our correspondence. And so you can see that over the last 3 years, particularly this year, we now, at July 24, only had 79 unfinancial members. A lot of those managed to translate to be financial, but we did lose considerable number of that 209 that dropped down to 79. So our total financial membership has increased since last year to 243, and we had 57 new members. So we have this turnover, constant turnover of membership. People come to the organisation, they pick up information, they stay for a year, 2 years, whatever, and then they move on. So we have an opportunity to actually impress on those members a lot of information in a relatively short amount of time. So the committee is quite understanding of this and focused on it, and we hope that we can retain as many of those members as possible. So future, we'd like to certainly reinforce how important it is to keep our strong relationships with our stakeholders and our celebrities such as Sophie Thompson. We had the Herding Caterpillars experience just a couple of weeks ago, which was preceded by Science Alive, and we managed to show our experience to over 1,600 viewers at those three events: Science Alive, the Botanic Garden, and National Science Week. And those are the sort of impacts we can have on a significant variety of people across Adelaide, from school children through to families and individuals. I've had quite a passion for making sure that we are involved in these STEAM projects, and our two grants with the Green Adelaide Grassroots Grants, the Caterpillar app, which Jan is managing, which we now extended for another year, as she mentioned, but also with the Herding Caterpillars Festival, which we'll equip later on this year. We had a gala event, which some of you came along to, and it was very heartening to have Professor Chris Daniels speak highly of our association and our ability to progress our objects. And he used the acronym COPS and described our organisation as being creative, optimistic, passionate, sharing, and educative. And it's something that is in our objects, in our constitution, and obviously we are managing to get this message out for people like Chris to actually recognise that we're actually doing this. Green Adelaide and many of our stakeholders will be very disappointed if we cannot continue our work and be a strong community partner, because government can't do this sort of thing on their own. So it's been truly amazing to see how many and varied inquiries we receive by email, Facebook and phone. We've had an increased social media presence this year with Sarah and Monina Gilby sharing the social media on Facebook and Instagram respectively. They promoted the 2024 calendar, and we'll still continue that for the rest of this year with the incredible images that are in that calendar. So just in wrapping up, I advised you last year that I was not standing as chairperson and took on the role as acting chairman. Regrettably, we're still looking for someone with the fresh eyes and energy to take on the role. All the committee have contemplated this in our meetings. They'll be supportive of the new leader. We just need to find that person who's prepared to step up and be supported by the many and talented individuals that are on the management committee. There are many other opportunities for members and friends to get involved and connect with nature, so we invite you to participate. The committee's decided that if we don't get senior management committee roles, then we'll be putting forward some actions and options to the membership to get some direction. But certainly we have a positive outlook on the committee, and we understand that it's a struggle throughout the volunteer sector to actually get people to step up, but it's really important that we share the load and actually take on roles and responsibilities to make sure organisations like Butterfly Conservation can prosper into the future. So thank you for your attendance and attention, and that's my report. Back to the agenda. Unfortunately, Esteban, because of his work schedule, can't be here, but I have managed to get a report from Esteban, which is in writing in front of you, but I will just go through his notes that he has prepared. And then I'm also pleased to say I've got some correspondence from the auditor which arrived today. So Esteban writes, I've prepared the attached financial reports for the financial year 1st of July 23 to 30th of June 24 as interim treasurer for Butterfly Conservation, and acting in that role since February 24 after resignation of Karen Roddo. So the profit and loss report shows a surplus of $3,971.09 this financial year, which is less $1,133.51 than previous. Membership revenue was significantly up, $4,645, $2,025 more than previous year. Gross profit from sales of books was $4,630, which is $3,298 less than previous. And donations received this year totaled $960, which have been deposited in the Conservation Fund bank account. So the balance sheet shows that figure in the Conservation Fund that I mentioned earlier of $7,484.78. The BCSA bank account investments totaled, excuse me, $95,803.84. And then we have 5 grants that we're finalising at the moment, listed there. And our equity position has increased from $84,406.50 to $91,431.71 as at 30th of June. And then he made a comment about the audit finances had not been completed. So I have the profit and loss statement here and the balance sheet before you. We will publish those in the next newsletter, but I just want to yeah. Okay, so we'll send this out to members in October. Yeah. I'm just going to change the share and bring up the other document, which is the auditor's report. Where is it? Okay, so I have been working with Tim Major from Lee Green over the last 4 years to get some reports on our finances, and we haven't ever paid for an auditor, and in our constitution annually we're supposed to do an audit. You may be aware under the ACNC guidelines that because we have less than $500,000 turnover per year that we are not required to do an audit, but because it's in our constitution, we're obliged to unless we change our constitution. So consequently, I have been trying to make sure that we did have an audit done. Because we've had 4 treasurers in the last 4 years, it's been a little bit difficult to get the continuity. So I have finally been successful in getting Tim to provide us with some documentation today. And he has prepared a profit and loss statement which covers the 4 years that he's developing the audit on. And I can report to you that he's carried out sufficient work to say that this document is a good representation of what we as the association have been doing. A couple of little anomalies that he wants to address, and he's also got 4 years of balance sheets and made some minor changes to a title of the non-current liabilities. He's encouraged us to be patient and will actually get an audit document out to us in the future. So if I can just show you the net profit over those 4 years. So 2021 is on your right-hand side. where our surplus or net profit, as it's listed here, was 5,169.91. So it's been pretty similar, slightly less this year due to our increased costs, despite our increased membership revenue. And in the balance sheet, similar 21 on your right and 23 on your left. And our total equity has increased each year from 74,754 in 21 to 88,380 So he's pretty happy that we are trading well and able to show the members that our finances are in good order. So I anticipate that in the next month or so, he'll have an audit statement to us, which we can then publish in that document that Jan was referring to. Any queries on the finances, including this audit note? No? Thank you. Just go back to the agenda, if I can find it. Wrong one. Oh, why can't I get it? I think this is the wrong one. No, it's the right one. Okay. So just go back to the agenda. Okay, so the committee has recommended that the membership fee remain the same as was increased last year. And that has been moved by Esteban and seconded by myself. And the life member fee is the same. Any comments on that before we move both the reports and the setting of membership fees? Okay, all those in favour of those reports we received, thank you. Thank you very much. All right, we have election of office bearers, and we do not have any nominations for chairperson. Do we have a nomination for secretary? No, it's not. We don't have a nomination for secretary. We have a nomination for treasurer, which is Esteban Garcia Marin. Esteban has done a great job over this last 8 months, and I certainly have pleasure in seconding his nomination. Yeah, are there any other nominations from the floor for chairman or for secretary or for treasurer? No? Well, I'll declare Esteban to be elected as treasurer. A round of applause, please. In his absence. Now we need a minimum of 2 nominations for committee, and we have myself, we have Sarah McDonald, we have Anne Winter, we have Bruce Baker, we have Jan Forrest, we have Gil Hollenby, Lionel Edwards, and Supreet Singh. So Peter McQuillan, Brian Hayward. Was Bernadette Johnson on here? No. Bernadette Johnson. And Mike Moore. So we have a cast of thousands for committee. I think it's going to be a matter of 10 people will step back and leave the other person in the front seat every month or something like that. Okay, we certainly do not have a limit on the number of committee members. So are there any other nominations? Okay, I will. Yeah, so in their absence, we will nominate them. I'm happy to nominate. Yeah. I'll second all of those. Yeah, Jan and Lionel seconded. Peter McQuillan, Brian Hayward, Bernadette Johnson, and Mike Moore. Okay. All right. I'll vote them in as a block. So they've been suitably nominated and seconded. All those in favour? Thank you. For the auditor, up until yesterday, I was reluctant to nominate Tim Major from Lee Green, but I'm quite happy to nominate him again since he's actually come to the party with some documentation. So I'd like to nominate Tim Major of Lee Green for auditor. And Esteban is happy to be seconding that. Public officer, I understand that John is prepared to continue on the role. Yeah. Okay. So we'll nominate John Wilson as public officer in his absence. And then we have the Butterfly Conservation Fund. That committee has not had a lot to do apart from an annual report to the Australian Tax Office about our fund, because we haven't actually spent any money from the fund. We've just reported on the income. But we are anticipating that committee will have a little bit of work to do, not a lot, because it's not a big fund, and we won't be opening up to dispersal of all of those funds straight away. But it's important to have some members available to actually be on that committee. So I'd just like to take some nominations from the floor for Butterfly Conservation Fund. The only requirement is that you're a responsible person. Responsible person is someone who's trustworthy. That's the only characteristic. So if you're a bankrupt, no. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So John Wilson, Jan Forrest, and we'd love to have a third person. Not a big job, but it is an important job. Sukhpreet? Sukhpreet. Thank you, Sukhpreet. Okay, so there being no other business placed on the agenda, what is the other business?
Well, we had a meeting and we would like to nominate to the meeting that this person in the front here, Joe Butler, you may nominate.
Oh. Thank you very much, Jen. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, members. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you. as you know, I was nominated for a couple of awards over the last couple of years, and it's lovely to be recognised. I certainly love doing this work and love being a leader, but I need other people to also lead as well. So it's really important that we share the load. But thank you very much for that, Jan. Thank you very much. Okay, if there's no other business, then I'd like to close the annual general meeting so that we can set up for our guest speaker, Mark Hutchinson. Thank you very much for coming, Mark. And we will need to set up a committee meeting date. But I'd just like to thank Alex, especially for your work this year. Much appreciated for coming on for the year.
Just one more thing. We appreciate all you've done. You've created a monster of an organisation which nobody else wants to take on, which is, well, I'm not sure that's an insult or praise. I thought for all your effort, which is a bottle of wine. Thank you.
The blue eyes boy, I don't know what blue eyes.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. All right. I'll just finish the Zoom. Thank you very much, Rona, for being online. But I'm just going to close the Zoom. And unless you want, are you there, Rona? Nope. Okay. All right, I'll close the AGM there.